I think that bell was from Bangladesh or somewhere like that, anyway. Listen, I just want to, thanks buddy, introduce our speaker today. And those of you who were with us in Billabong, you'll remember Nick, and that was in a very difficult period of time when churches were shut down, big gatherings were shut down and everything like that. So we had to be very careful. We're being somewhat less careful, but always watchful, all right? Because we're not surrounded by people who are favourable to the Christian faith. Oh, by the way, this is your... So, you know, I've always been a servant, haven't I, really, of the congregation. And anyway, so I'm really looking forward to this. It's been in planning for a few weeks, and I'm just so happy. And we had to, we couldn't promote it all over the place, or else you'd get people that you really don't want in the congregation. And it's just for you because you're so faithful and you're faithful towards Jesus. And so I just want Nick to come up now and give them all a very big CCP. Hey, buddy. Thank you very much. Good, buddy.
Well, hopefully nothing too bad. It's a pleasure to be with you. In fact, it's a joy to be with you here this morning. Thank you for the invitation, Stuart and Sue, the invitation to be back with you. And I do remember fondly our previous morning together, not far away at Billabong, and what a blessing it is to be able to have access to this particular venue here this morning. Of course, it's also a joy for me to be here once again in front of my old Year 7 school teacher. No pressure whatsoever. But let me tell you, brothers and sisters, that the pressure for me to be able to present before Mr. Murray this morning pales into insignificance compared to the topic that Stuart kindly gave me to speak to you about this morning. So several weeks ago, he approached me and said, "Would you like to come back?" I said, "Yes, it's always a great privilege." I said, "What would you like me to talk about?" And he said, "Well, the topic that we've got for you is the future of the Christian faith under a godless state and federal government." And so the hairs on the back of my neck went up a little bit. I thought, far out, this is quite something. This is going to be some pressure. And even earlier this week, I confessed to you that I said to Stuart, "Look, I might just tinker with the title a little bit." He said, "Don't worry about it. We've got fantastic IT guys and they'll only put the topic up at the last minute when you get up to speak." And I said to him a couple of days ago, I said, "Look, on reflection, I'm going to stick with the topic that you've given me, Stuart. I'm going to try and tackle it." And so with those introductory remarks, brothers and sisters, let's get into it. It does seem, I think if you look at this topic, I think it's the word godless in it that really chastens us. It really makes us think, hang on a second, is this right? Are we really in this particular space and time that we would be saying that we're now living under a godless generation? Could that really be true? Is it too harsh? Now this morning I'm hopeful that I might be able to have three volunteers. Now they have to be people who have access to a Bible this morning. If you do, you might look up Isaiah 1, because that's where we're going to start. Isaiah 1. Needs to be people with an access to the Bible. It needs to be someone with a loud voice and somebody who's courageous enough to be able to stand up in your seat there and just read. It's only going to be 1 or 2 verses, not tough, but is there a volunteer who might be able to just read for us this morning Isaiah 1 verse 4. Isaiah 1 verse 4, just in your seat there, if you could just stand up with a loud voice, Isaiah 1 verse 4. Thank you.
Alas, sinful nation, a people laden with iniquity, a brood of evildoers, children who are corrupters. They have forsaken the Lord. They have provoked to anger the Holy One of Israel. They have turned away backward.
Thank you. It's heavy. It's harsh, this language, and yet it's there, right in front of us in Isaiah 1 verse 4. Could somebody read for us Isaiah 1 verses 21 through to 23? Just as we continue contemplating this notion of what is it to be living in a godless generation. Isaiah 1 verse 21 to 23. Yeah. And too many times it feels like that. The cause of the fatherless, the widow, who is speaking for them. And lastly, if somebody could read for us Isaiah 5 verse 20. Isaiah 5 verse 20, just a few chapters later. We've had a couple of verses out of Isaiah 1. Isaiah 5 verse 20. Thank you very much. And I think, friends, it's this notion here of calling evil good that in preparation for this morning has inspired me to stick with Pastor Stuart's topic, calling good things evil. And that really does sum up where we are at. And I want to just share with you a few examples over the last 6 years where we have seen this manifest itself here in our own state here in Western Australia. And I begin at the beginning of life. The beginning of life in Western Australia now, we have routinely every year around about 8,000 to 9,000 pregnancy terminations, 8,000 to 9,000 abortions at the beginning of life. We routinely every year have dozens and dozens of those abortions taking place because there has been Down syndrome that has been detected in the young life. And about once a year we have one of these young children survive the procedure and be born alive. And our laws currently allow for the 9,000 to take place. Our laws allow for the Down syndrome detection to take place and then terminate the life. And our laws allow for a scenario that sees that one child who miraculously survives this procedure is left to die. And all of this is declared good in our land. And even worse, 2 years ago we had a special law that was passed that said that for the first time in our history, we will now remove from the coroner is the person who does the investigations into unexpected, unplanned deaths, unnatural deaths. The coroner is not to look into these particular deaths. And it was declared a good thing, you see, because it was considered to be too traumatic for the family if there was going to be an investigation into the death of this young infant who had survived an abortion procedure and been left to die. And it was declared to be a good thing. It was the kind and compassionate thing to do for the family. No thought given whatsoever to the voiceless child, the one who was struggling for breath at the beginning of life. And so we have here in this example at the beginning of life a scenario very much where in our modern age, evil is declared good. Let's move into childhood. Only last year there was a scenario where there was community concern. This was in Albany in Albany, there were a group of parents who were very concerned because in the public library, in the junior section, there was a sex education book. Now, I think most fair-minded parents would say there's nothing wrong with there being a sex education for young people, but it needs to be age appropriate. And in this particular book, there were significant concerns about the content of the book, so much so that the parents wanted the book removed. In the Parliament, we had members of Parliament ridiculing these parents, vilifying these parents, saying that they were in the wrong. And yet inside this book, if people took the time to look at it, it taught young people how to sext. That is, to take intimate images of themselves and distribute that. What's the problem with that? Well, there's a number of problems with that, not the least of which it's against the law in our own state for a young person to sext, and yet this book was teaching young people to do this, and in the Parliament we had people declaring this as good. I'll move on to the next stage of life in adulthood. In our nation, in our state at the moment, it is the case that a biological man is called a woman, and this is declared to be a good thing. And only in the last year, the Parliament of Western Australia has even said that it is such a good thing that we will even allow them to then lawfully change the sex on their birth certificate. These things are declared good in our modern era. And if I turn back now to 6 years ago and look at issues to do with the end of life, our Parliament decided that they would recharacterise assisted suicide at the end of life under this label of voluntary assisted dying, as if there had been no programs, no efforts made for generations to prevent suicide. Suddenly we were going to celebrate it and glorify it, and when the law passed, there were cheers in the Parliament. These things were declared as good. So when Pastor Stewart says that we are living under a godless state and federal government, he is not wrong. We are living under a godless generation. And so, friends, it's important for us to also note that these troubling times over the last 6 years and the examples that I've just given you, this is not the end. Because we now have a scenario where we have a state government and a federal government who are actively looking at changing the laws in our state and in our nation, our equal opportunity laws and our discrimination laws, to manifestly change the way in which faith-based organisations operate. What does that mean for us? Well, in particular, if you have any affinity or connection with a faith-based school, let us say it's a Christian school, there's a big problem coming because the government is wanting to change the law to say that you can no longer discriminate as to who you hire and fire and have in your organisation. And if they do that with regard to schools, how much more so are they going to then next come and decide who can and can't be at the front of your service in your church? It's a strange thing, and yet we must continue to build relationships with our members of Parliament and those who might make this decision, because they still have not yet understood that if a parent can decide who is going to be looking after their child in their own home, surely their parent should be able to decide who is looking after them in the school. And this is on our doorstep, brothers and sisters. These are the times that we are living in. where these things which are manifestly evil are declared as good. It's heavy, isn't it? It's perhaps why I was a little bit reluctant to fully embrace the topic when Stuart gave it to me. Do I really want to spend my Sunday morning and then the days leading up to it reflecting on this and communicating this hopeless feeling, this oppressive, depressive message to fellow brothers and sisters? So why has he given me this topic? Well, in the few moments that I have with you this morning, brothers and sisters, I'd like us to just take a moment to consider the cloud of witnesses that have lived before us. Because the truth is, what we are experiencing at the moment, even those examples that I've given you, they're manifestly wrong. They're not in the best interest of anybody. Yet it's happening, and yet we are not the first generation to live under these type of conditions. Far from it. And so I'll give you three quick examples. I mean, we could spend hours this morning looking at the cloud of witnesses that have lived before us. But the first one I'd like us to consider for a moment is, if we find it difficult this morning listening to these examples, feeling perhaps this sense of being overwhelmed by the weight of it all, really, we're living in a generation that declares as good that on average, every hour of every day, there is a life that is taken at the beginning of life. This is where we're at. If we consider how difficult and how heavy that is, how must it have been if you were Elijah living at the time of King Ahab? Now, for those who are not familiar with the story, you can look it up in 1 Kings. Now, Elijah and Ahab, we're looking at about 850 BC. You know what's tremendous is that in recent times, more and more, isn't it wonderful how archaeologists continue to do the work that they're doing, and they continue to find information which verifies the stories that have been in the Bible. It's a tremendous blessing and encouragement, isn't it? Now, 850 BC, we have Elijah living in the time of King Ahab. Why do I choose him as one of the three examples this morning? Because if you look in 1 Kings, there's a passage there that specifically says that King Ahab and what he was doing was far worse than any of the ones before him. Now, that's saying something, because if you read those passages in the Old Testament, so this is the time after David, after Solomon, when we've now got Israel has been broken in two. We've got Israel in the north, we've got Judah in the south, and in particular in the kingdom of Israel, there's one king after another who is living a lifestyle completely contrary to what God has required of them. Completely contrary. And then we get this passage where Ahab comes along, and Ahab is seen to be the worst of the worst. And here is Elijah, and he's been called to serve God and be faithful in his message at this particular time. Imagine how difficult that would be. To live under a time where the Bible says that this king is the worst of the worst, I'm paraphrasing here, is worse than the ones that came before him. Who is going to go out and speak out in a generation like that? And yet we have Elijah and his witness, one of the clouds of witnesses who have lived before us. And if I reflect on the life of Elijah, one characteristic that immediately comes out is his boldness. Despite the fact that he was living in that generation, truly in a godless generation. If ever the word godless generation was to apply, this would apply then. And yet he was bold and willing to say what needed to be said. Let's fast forward 300 years, approximately 300 years. Now we look at the life of Daniel, and there's many passages where you can learn about the life of Daniel, obviously the book of Daniel in particular, and we're talking now about 550 BC. And Daniel is living in a brutal time because he's living under the Babylonian Empire. The Israelites have been taken into captivity. Imagine what that would be like, to be taken away from your home, and now you're living in a foreign land against your will, and you're still expected to serve, and we would say still to be a good Christian witness. And for those of you who are familiar with the story of Daniel, you'll know that there are many examples of how he displayed a very disciplined life. His integrity was beyond reproach. The scenario where he was ultimately thrown into the lion's den is one that most people are very familiar with. And why did that happen? Why did that happen? Because he dared to pray. He dared to exercise his Christian faith. Of course, you also know the scenario of his good friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who said to the rulers of the day, "We're not going to follow what you are instructing us to do. What you're instructing us to do is morally wrong. We will not do that. And even if we die at this particular point, we're prepared to do so." That's boldness of a level of Elijah. And Daniel has led this disciplined life in truly a godless generation under this Babylonian Empire. And the third example that I give you this morning, brothers and sisters, is the ultimate example, the life of Jesus. So we're now 550 years further on from Daniel's time. And again, if we're thinking about living under a godless generation, Jesus and his disciples at that time are living under the Roman Empire, who are particularly known for their brutality, and indeed crucifixion was seen as a particular sign of that brutality. That's the generation that they are living under, a godless generation. And how would we describe the life of Jesus at that time? He was as bold as Elijah. He was prepared to say what needed to be said. He was as disciplined as Daniel. His integrity was above reproach. And of course, I'm sure that if Elijah and Daniel were here today, they would recoil at the idea that their lives are being compared to Jesus, who was the perfect example. And in addition to all of that, the boldness of Elijah and the discipline of Daniel, you then see Jesus going above and beyond in demonstrating love to those around him. So how then do we respond in this generation in 2025? If we have come to the same conclusion as Pastor Stuart, that we're living in a godless generation, that we are troubled with how we deal with human life at the beginning, during childhood, during adulthood, at the end of life, if we're truly troubled by these things, how then do we respond? Well, brothers and sisters, if we're going to look at the cloud of witnesses before us, whether it be Elijah, Daniel, or Jesus himself, the first thing that we must do before we do anything else is examine that gigantic log that is in our own eye. Because how easy is it for any of us today, including me, to be standing in front of you and saying that we're living in a godless generation, and to list the litany of faults and indiscretions that are happening in Perth, that are happening in Western Australia, that are happening in Australia, and not to have a good examination of my own life. until such time as we do that first, we're in no position to be talking about anything else. And so that needs to be the place that we start. Having done that, we then must do something, because the answer cannot be to do nothing. We never want to be the wicked and lazy servant, the one with the one talent who was told, "Why did you do nothing?" We never want to be the two who continued to walk down the road when they saw the man injured on the side. We must stop and do something. So having examined our own life, removed that log from our own eye, we then must do something. And might I suggest to you this morning, brothers and sisters, that we might start with the disciplined life of Daniel. That would be a good place to start. And having then done so, we are then in a better position to speak boldly like Elijah. We can speak boldly like Elijah, having examined our own life and having had a life that is disciplined like Daniel. And above all else, over and above all of this, to be doing as Jesus was doing, to be constantly looking for opportunities to love those around us. It's an incredibly high aspiration, one that can feel overwhelming at times, I know. But brothers and sisters, if this is what Jesus was willing to do for us, how can we try and do anything less than that? I'm going to conclude shortly and read to you from Isaiah 1, verses 16 to 17. On this occasion, I'll read it. And after that, our good friends, the IT gurus, will then play a short video. I'll just ask for you to reflect on the words and the lyrics in the song. We'll go for about 4 minutes. It's a song that I certainly have taken great encouragement from. Having served now in the Western Australian Parliament for 16 years, recommitting myself to serve on your behalf and the people of Western Australia for the next 4 years, Lord willing. I have over that time taken encouragement on many occasions from the lyrics in this particular song, because the weight of responsibility is great, as it is for all of us as we're living in this generation. I had a fellow parliamentarian only in the last 24 hours say to me, "Do you sometimes feel like we're fighting this war with water pistols?" And I said to him, "I constantly feel like that." And I told him that today I had the privilege of sharing a message with you, and I said to him, I'm going to be reflecting on the times of Elijah and Daniel and Jesus, and how in response to that, how can we do anything less but to go and do likewise? I hope that the words of that song will be of an encouragement to you, brothers and sisters. As I leave and afterwards, and as we share in fellowship, I have a few flyers here if you're interested in the work that I've been doing and in other ways in which you can help to make a difference. I've got a number of them that will be here with me. Come and pick one up, otherwise I'll give a bundle to Pastor Stewart. You can grab one from him. I'm greatly encouraged by your support and by the congregation. And I'll leave you with these final words from Isaiah 1, verse 16 to 17, before we then reflect on the song. Isaiah 1, verse 16 and 17. Brothers and sisters, wash and make yourselves clean. Take your evil deeds out of my sight. Stop doing wrong. Learn to do right. Seek justice. Defend the oppressed. Take up the cause of the fatherless. Plead the case of the widow. Thank you.
What the world offers, my heart invites as I seek the vain comfort of idols that lie, Lord, defend my heart, guide me to you. When the world tempts me with its false truth and I cling to its promise that leads me to ruin, Lord, defend my heart, guide me to you, only you. Though I may wander, though I might stray, Lord, may I know your mercies each day. You're forever faithful, Lord of all grace. In your great love, show me mercy, I pray. Forever faithful. When my heart weakens and sin prevails, when I put all my trust in these idols that fail, Lord, defend my heart, help me trust you. As the world tells me what to hold true, and I reach for the glory that belongs to you, Lord, defend my heart, help me trust you, only you. Though I may wander, though I might stray, Lord, may I know your mercies each day. You're forever faithful, Lord of all grace. In your great love, show me mercy, I pray. Forever faithful. Though I may wander, though I might stray, Lord, may I know your mercies each day. You're forever faithful, Lord of all grace. In your great love, show me mercy, I pray. Forever faithful. Though I may wander, though I might stray, Lord, may I know your mercies each day. You're forever faithful, Lord of all grace. In your great love, show me mercy, I pray. Forever faithful, forever faithful.
Hello, hello. You know, Nick was saying it's sort of like a privilege to be here, but it was a privilege for us to have him to come and share that. I just wanted to ask a couple of questions because something happened in the national election and the state election. It's like the door opened very, very, very slightly and a sliver of light come in. And we were talking about Marika Grimfeld and others. what does that do? And the other people that got into the parliament, what does that do helping you to try and be an Elijah, try and be a David and everything in that? I mean, the parliament is more or less like Babylon's palace, but he got Nebuchadnezzar into heaven. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, it's a great question, and what Pastor Stuart's referring to is that there has been, despite the fact that we might feel at times overwhelmed by the laws that are being made, by the outcomes of elections, confused by all of these type of things, there has not only been a remnant that's been serving for a period of time, but now there has been an increase of good, faithful individuals that are now serving in the Parliament for the next 4 years. And that is an enormous encouragement. I spoke briefly earlier about the life of Daniel, and then briefly mentioned Shadrach, Meshach and Abednego.
Abednego.
The three of them, how much great encouragement must it have been for them to be together, to be more than just one. Very difficult to be Daniel in the lion's den all by yourself, but suddenly when you have a band of brothers, 3 together, such great encouragement. And that's how we've been called to live, to have fellowship amongst one another. It does provide great encouragement. So having these newly elected members has been tremendous. This is my 5th term in Parliament. Never before has there been so many. Maybe I'll finish on this point, Stuart, just simply to say that I have been for many years hosting a prayer breakfast for members of Parliament. And this invitation goes out to all 95 members of Parliament. It's not for us to judge where people are at. We just send out the invitation. Those who want to come, they'll come. And over the last few years, there's been some times where there's been the guest pastor who gives a little devotional. There's been myself, and there's been one other MP. And so pretty light on. We always joke amongst ourselves to say, well, the rule in the Bible says where 2 or more gather, and so we're 3, so we're fine. Well, in recent times, we've been having 10 attending.
And you know what reminds me when you were speaking then? That Nebuchadnezzar fell for a plan to throw the 3 into the furnace, right? And it's almost like the furnace is a metaphor of what we've been through over the last 6, 7, 8 years. Do you know what I mean? And then Nebuchadnezzar looked into the furnace and said, who is that 4th man? And he's always with us. And we often see the flames, but we don't ever notice the 4th man. Right? And so, look, it's just been such a privilege to have you. And I might get you once a month, actually, and I can take a break.
My home church might have something to say.
Yeah, I know. Hey, listen,
Thank you very much.
we're going to have one more worship song, and then we can go out there and don't flood him, you know, like line up, and Jim will organise the discipline in the room, but it'll be a great time of fellowship, and thank you very much, Nick. All right.